views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Get ready to experience the truth. Welcome to Truth Talk Radio with your host, Deb Acker. Truth Talk Radio is a hit show that will illuminate the truth in your daily life as you experience life, love, and abundance from a whole new perspective. Unleash your intuitive nature while Deb helps you stop looking outside yourself for value and happiness, break through patterns, and move into your authentic truth at lightning speed. Truth Talk Radio will leave you feeling lighter, help you live with more presence, passion, and clarity, and bring you into a place of infinite possibilities every day in every way. Now here's your host, Deb Acker.
Hello, everyone. I'm Deb Acker, and you are listening to Truth Talk on Transformation Talk Radio. Stay with me for the next hour as I help you experience the truth, nothing but the truth. Each week on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, I'll have some of the most gifted, inspiring, unique souls, speakers, and authors helping to move you into more light, love, and, of course, truth. And before we get started today, I'd like to start out today's show with an intention. And my intention for today's show is that everyone that needs to hear this conversation hears it, and that you leave feeling expansive, inspired, lit up, and super clear in your life. And on today's show, we are going to do something a little bit different. Normally, I know I have a guest on the show, and today there is no guest, and we are going to be taking live callers. So I welcome any of your questions regarding patterns, anything that you're wanting some intuitive support and coaching around, and you can call in to the station at 800-930-2819. That's 800-930-2819. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. So today we are going to be talking about clearing and identifying your patterns. And so first and foremost, let's talk about what a pattern is and really how I define a pattern. And so a pattern, in the way that I define it, is a set of behaviors, beliefs, emotions, blocks, or energies that keep recurring over and over in your life. And so many times our patterns, as humans, we're not super aware of our patterns, right? Life tends to be kind of happening to us, and we kind of just assume things are just sort of happening because that's what's going on. And so what I want to talk about today is, first of all, how do we get our patterns? Like, how does that whole kind of fundamentally start? And then obviously, how do we start to identify these? What are some of the most common patterns? And then most importantly, how do we begin to clear and shift these patterns? And make sure you stay tuned to the end, because we will be doing a big clearing on some of the patterns that we're talking about today at the end of the show. And so I just defined a pattern for you. And what I want to talk about is my understanding, the way that I see how our patterns sort of get started, and really what the difference is between our inherited truth and our actual truth, right? And the way that I always talk about this is basically, like, when we are kids, we tend to be we're hanging out with our parents, and we don't have any sort of boundary system. We don't have any system up to say no. And so whatever our parents are modeling for us tends to be kind of gets stored in our body. It tends to be sort of our stored way of life, right? So if our parents model for us that, it's good to be, say for instance, like one really common pattern is criticism, right? And so many times our parents, sort of unconsciously, unbeknownst to them really, they tend to model for us criticism equals love. And so sometimes in the way that they show you love, they end up criticizing you, right? And so you might subconsciously take in that to be loving, you have to be critical. And so that's a stored energy. That's when I say stored energy, that's an example of a stored energy that can get stored in your body. And then we end up walking into our everyday, many times, like with the example I just gave, attracting people that show up for us that basically dictate criticism equals love. And so the process that I use to really identify and clear that pattern is to really go back to that initial moment. So I'm an intuitive, and many times when I'm sitting and working with my clients, what I'll identify is the age that pattern first started in this lifetime. And then which parent or role model in your life where you got that pattern. So maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, or maybe it's some other surrogate parent that you had when you were growing up. And then what I'll look at is the emotion or the energy that you took on in that moment. And you don't even have to know. Like, I'll bring up the stuff and say, hey, notice if anything comes up. And sometimes something that comes up, even if it's not related, can be something that's important, and it's important to clear. And sometimes if you can't see that, if you don't know it, all I do is go and look at what really happened in that moment, right? What conclusions were actually made and what the energy and the emotion was in that moment. And so one example, like in the situation of what we're talking about right now with criticism equals love, is you might have taken on a fear that if you're not critical, you won't be loved. And so now in your everyday relationships, you're showing up from that perspective. And I always call that our inherited truth, right? Because is that really your truth? Do you really want to be critical to get love in your life? Or would you prefer to actually just show up from truth and just show up from this loving space and really attract love that way, right? So that's basically how I call our inherited truth versus our actual truth. And this stuff to me is so super interesting. And so we're going to dive deeper into some common patterns, but one common pattern I want to talk about right now that I see it's so common in 99% or 100% of the population and in pretty much most people that I work with is really settling for less than you desire and deserve in your life. And this one is so common, and most of us aren't even aware that that we're even doing this, right? We kind of just assume this is how life is meant to be. And so a couple of examples of how this shows up. For one, in our jobs, maybe, we're in a job that just sort of is happening, right? It pays our bills. It's okay. We show up, we kind of go every day. Well, we go every day. We go every day, but we're not lit up. We're not super excited and really doesn't feel really juicy or delicious. We're not super excited about it, right? And so there's that as an example of where we're settling for less than and we desire and deserve in our job. And in our relationships, maybe it ends up happening where either someone you're beginning to date or starting to date or desiring to date isn't showing up for you in a way that really, if you were holding them to the standard of love and holding yourself to your own knowing, to really internalizing what you desire and you deserve, you might say no to it, right? So maybe they say, oh, I would like to stay in contact with you, but I am dating someone right now. And maybe from a scarcity perspective, which is another really super common pattern, but maybe from a scarcity perspective, you're like, okay, well, maybe something can happen from this. So I'm going to open myself to this, even though in the back of your mind, you're like, no, I don't want somebody who's already preoccupied or taken up with somebody else, right? So that's one example. And then when we're in a relationship, another common example of this is that, say, for instance, you're dating a guy and you really, really like this person, right? You're really excited about them. You really like them. And yet they're not showing up for you how you want them to show up, right? Maybe, they don't call when they say they're going to call, or they're not calling enough. And you don't want to lose them. So instead of really standing in your truth and owning your truth, because after all, this is truth talk, but instead of really owning your truth and standing in your truth, you end up really just accepting whatever it is that they're giving you instead of really honoring that. And so those are some really, really important pieces, and just something to be so aware of when you are settling for less than you desire, settling for less than you deserve in your life. And so why is recognizing and undoing our patterns so important to success in all areas of our lives? And the way that I always describe it is really recognizing and undoing your patterns is the key to living from your truth each and every day. And I want to say that one more time because it's really, really important. But recognizing and undoing your patterns is the key to living from your truth each and every day. And why is this? And this goes back to our inherited truths, right? The patterns that we got from our parents and from when we were growing up. And this is because as you undo what isn't you, which is your patterns, most of which you got from your parents' stories, the only thing that is left is you. So again, just to repeat that, recognizing and undoing your patterns is so important because as you undo what isn't you, which is your inherited truths, the patterns you and stories you got from your parents you've taken on as your own truths, the only thing that is left, that can be left, is you. And that's, inherently and fundamentally with the work that I do with my clients, we clear the patterns, right? We look at, and so many times we're not aware of, we're going to talk about too, how do we begin to identify these patterns, right? But so many times in our lives we'll have something happening, we'll be showing up in our life thinking, okay, this is just happening to me. This is just, we don't even recognize like this is actually a pattern, and we don't have the ability to be able to see that in several areas of our life. But you can start to do that, right? And so we're going to go to break here in just a minute. But when we come back from the break, one of the things that I will talk to you about is how do we start to see the various patterns? Like when a pattern is showing up, and that settling for less than you desire and deserve is one primary way to look at that. But when we are showing up and looking at it like that, how do we begin to really start to recognize that, right? How do we see that super clearly? And then like I said, we're going to do a really big clearing at the end. And again, I invite you to call in. So you can call in at 800-930-2819. And so we're going to head to break here. You are listening to Truth Talk. I am your host, Deb Acker. When we come back, we're going to explore more on our patterns. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
Calling all Intuit's healers and readers, you are invited to the Women of Wisdom Fall Festival. Healing our planet, sharing our gifts. Join us as we celebrate the bounty of our Mother Earth on October 1st at North Seattle Community College. We're looking for a variety of practitioners and experts in the art of energy healings, intuitive readings, and bodywork. If you are a reader, healer, or artisan, we invite you to share your gifts with the Women of Wisdom community. Go to womenofwisdom.org to apply.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This hit show will have you thinking outside the box and riding the wave of infinite potential. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. Visit thetruthisfunny.com.
Have you felt a lot of fear and self-doubt in your life where you feel like you never know what's right for you? As a result, maybe you've made yourself invisible or haven't fully put yourself out there. Hi, my name is Deb Acker. In addition to being the host of Truth Talk Radio, I'm an intuitive life coach and energy healer. I clear energy blocks to all areas of life, including stepping into your power to be confident and visible in your relationships and the world. Did you know fear, self-doubt, feeling invisible, and not feeling comfortable to put yourself out there are all linked to not being in your power? What if you could always feel powerful and on purpose at all times? I used to spend a lot of time hiding in fear and self-doubt. Now I'm not afraid to put myself out there on a bigger scale, and most importantly, I know what's right for me in every moment, and I take action accordingly. On the other side, I now help others with this, and if you're ready to be powerful and confident and let go of the fear that holds you back from a bigger life, I'd love to gift you with my pattern identification session. Simply contact me on the contact page of my website, DeborahAcker.com. That's DeborahAcker.com. And let me know you heard about this gift through Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to connecting soon.
Sky Siegel co-hosts one of today's most popular psychic shows, Angels and Answers, with Artie Hoffman, as she communicates healing messages from the spirit world. These messages can be astounding, enlightening, and life-changing. Born with the God-given talent of inner guidance and the amazing ability to heal, Sky has healed thousands of people. Schedule a reading with Sky now. Call 908-500-1474 and visit skyofangels.com.
1230 WBLQ.
Hello and welcome back to Truth Talk. I am your host, Deb Acker. And before we start, I want to really dive into what does it mean to be true to ourselves? How do we identify our patterns? And what are some of the most common patterns that I see? And before we do that, I want to just touch base and talk to you about my Live Your Truth pattern breaking program. And so down in these parts in Chicago, I am known as the pattern girl. And what my clients will tell you is no one does patterns or really undoes patterns like I do. And I absolutely love patterns. And so this program was created around the biggest patterns I see in my female clients, right? And truth is something that I am so passionate about, and it is really my mission to help women to stop settling in their lives, to stop lying to themselves, stop lying to others, and to really own, live, move towards, and speak their truth each and every day. And so this program is really meant to up-level your happiness baseline. It's meant to clear out the top patterns you see in your life so you can up-level your happiness baseline so you can feel calmer, clearer, more present. And we'll talk about some more of the results that you get when you do and that I've seen my clients achieve when they clear their patterns. And so you can find out more about this program on my website at www.Deborah Acker, that's DeborahAcker.com/live-your-truth-program. So again, that's www.deborahAcker.com/live-your-truth-program. And so really what I want to talk about is what does, I'm talking about this Live Your Truth pattern breaking program, and I'm talking about really living your truth and identifying, clearing your patterns and how that leads to really you being your true you, right? And so what does it really mean to be your true you? And really, I always talk about to look at this, what we need to do is really look at what it means not to be your true you. And the way that I always talk about this is, so in general, most of us walk around thinking that we are living a life that is true for us, which makes perfect sense, right? After all, we've decided on everything from our daily choices, clothing, food, activities, to bigger pieces like our career, our relationships, and where we're living. So the question comes in, what doesn't being true to you look like? So I always say, so if your parents had the expectation that you would be a doctor or a lawyer, and that's the path that you decided to take, even though you're maybe more creative, is that really true for you, right? And then if you take that even one step further, if you grew up in a family where it was expected that you got married and had kids, and again, maybe that's true for you and maybe that's not, but you kind of just took on that inherited truth, is that really true for you? And then you take this even deeper. If in one moment you ask your parents for something, and they say no, right? So, they say no, you're asking for an apple and they say no, or they say or you're asking them for chocolate, I should say, and they say no, and they say you should have this apple. In that moment, and maybe in that moment you internalize that you would always hear no when you wanted something, or maybe even that you don't know what's right for you, right? Those are a couple of conclusions you could have made in that moment. And then you've been playing out that paradigm in every area of your life since that moment. Again, is that really true for you? Are you living a life that's really, really true for you if this is a stored emotion, a stored energy that's in your body? And then if you take that even one step further, so that example that I gave is just one moment of a gazillion moments that we think about that happen in our childhood, right? So if you take that one step further and you take the above, and then you imagine thousands of moments like that in your childhood where hundreds of subconscious and unconscious conclusions were made. And now, you're walking around in your everyday adult life, creating them over and over and over. And it's no wonder why so many times we find ourselves lost, we find ourselves confused, and why our bodies feel so heavy, right? Because that's a lot of luggage to be carrying around that's theoretically not even yours, right? It's your parents' truth, and they got it from their parents, and it's just, it's just been carried down from lineage to lineage, line to line to line. And so really, what are the results? Like when, I mentioned raising your happiness baseline, I want to go into more details about that, but what are the results and the benefits that one sees from really clearing their patterns, right? And clearing your patterns really helps you become a powerful manifester. It helps you to connect to your intuition. And I've talked about this before on the show, but I really want to talk about why this is, right? And so many times the inherited truths that we've taken on from our parents around fear, around anger, if they got angry in a situation, we might have stored that anger in our body. So all the lower level emotions, lower level energies like fear, anger, control, shame, guilt, all of those that we've taken on, they keep us heavy. It's like we're carrying around that extra luggage, and they keep us from being the powerful manifester that we are. Because when we are in our energetic form, so when we are not in our physical form, and just kind of stick with me here on this, but because this is an interesting and it's a big concept as well. But when we are in our energetic form and we are not in physical form, we are extremely light. Just take that in and see if that makes sense, as your mind's just trying to process this. So we're extremely light. And when we're in that energetic form and not in our physical form, in that lightness, we manifest super quickly. So literally we think of something and then it happens. It's just that powerful. And so as you take those heavier energies out of your physical form, so, again, the energies of anger, fear, guilt, shame, control, for example, as you take those and you move up into that lighter form, you're really returning to the powerful manifester that you've always been, that you came here to be in physical form, but because we've stepped into this illusionary world, we've forgotten about. Right? So that's one piece of it. The other thing too is that as you move up into the lighter energies like joy, peace, gratitude, love, so as you move up into those, you connect to your intuition, right? And so the intuition is always coming in, right? And we are all intuitive. And I know so many of us, and myself included, was like I always thought only certain people had those abilities. Only certain people have those powers. But the truth of the matter is, and some of the work that I do with my clients is clearing their intuitive blocks, because we are all intuitive beings. We all have the knowledge, the power to see the truth at any moment. But because we have so much luggage, so much baggage we're carrying around from other people, it is really hard to see the actual truth when you're carrying around that luggage, carrying around that baggage from your parents, right? Because it's kind of like almost like the picture that I get right now as I'm talking about this is that you've got so much in the way of actually being able to see that truth. But when you clear out those patterns, you clear out those pieces, all of a sudden you can always see the truth in any moment, and you can be that intuitive to always know what's right for you. And you move into a higher level energy of really trusting everything that's happening. So those are a couple of results, but I want to even dive deeper into this, right? Because I mentioned your happiness baseline, right? And the happiness baseline is so interesting and it's so important, right? Because what I've seen from doing this work with my clients time and time and time again is that your happiness baseline moves up, right? And so, most of us we're just going through life, and many times we're on the roller coaster of life, right? Life is just sort of happening to us, and we're kind of being, swung from side to side and front and back, and just, for lack of a better way to put it, jerked around. And so as you clear out your patterns and as you clear out these inherited truths, all of a sudden your happiness baseline goes up. And as you clear out these energies that feel like you are swinging from side to side and being being jerked around and being swung front and back, all of a sudden you have this, like you're more connected to that peace, that internal peace, the ease, the calm that, when you see enlightened beings or when you see people that have really done a lot of personal growth work that they have, you're connected to that. And so that is something that's so super powerful. So I remember when I first started this work and first started identifying patterns, I really I was really excited, and I was walking around. This is really funny, but I was walking around going, I have inner peace. And it was because, though, I had gotten out all the chaos, all of everyone else's chaos, right? All of their chaos had come out of my body as I had started, or a lot of it, and it really had brought me into that sense of inner peace. And so the other, I always call it it's like the 4 food groups, are really the 4 life categories that people are always wanting, seeking one or more of, that really clearing your patterns, really the results that happen around your soul purpose, where you start to connect to your soul purpose, right? Because again, as you clear out what's not true for you, the only thing that's left is your truth. And I've seen clients do this in just literally a couple of sessions of working with me, right? Like, we'll work on it, we'll clear out some of the patterns and some of the things that have them stopping from really being able to tune into that soul purpose that's always with us, that we have in our bodies. That's why it's called soul, a soul purpose. And they're able just to tune in and open to what their life, what's really calling them, where the direction their life is supposed to be going. Abundance is another huge result, huge benefit from clearing your patterns, because you experience tons of abundance, and I'm talking like tens of thousands of dollars here. And then also love. So you get amazing conscious love partners, love relationships. And guess what, guys? There are a ton of good guys out there, a ton of good people out there, and you just have to raise your vibration up to attract them. And then health is another big one, right? Because so many times our patterns are because we have messages in our body. And so, our pain has messages for us. And as you clear out your patterns, all of a sudden that pain and the message that our pain has for us is undone. And so you can undo everything from migraines to back and knee pain and all different kinds of things. And so we're going to take a quick break here. You are listening to Truth Talk. I am your host, Deb Acker. When we return, we are going to talk about some of the most common patterns that I see. And we will do a huge, super awesome, amazing energetic clearing. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Have you felt a lot of fear and self-doubt in your life where you feel like you never know what's right for you? As a result, maybe you've made yourself invisible or haven't fully put yourself out there. Hi, my name is Deb Acker. In addition to being the host of Truth Talk Radio, I'm an intuitive life coach and energy healer. I clear energy blocks to all areas of life, including stepping into your power to be confident and visible in your relationships and the world. Did you know fear, self-doubt, feeling invisible, and not feeling comfortable to put yourself out there are all linked to not being in your power? What if you could always feel powerful and on purpose at all times? I used to spend a lot of time hiding in fear and self-doubt. Now I'm not afraid to put myself out there on a bigger scale, and most importantly, I know what's right for me in every moment, and I take action accordingly. On the other side, I now help others with this, and if you're ready to be powerful and confident and let go of the fear that holds you back from a bigger life, I'd love to gift you with my pattern identification session. Simply contact me on the contact page of my website, DeborahAcker.com. That's DeborahAcker.com. And let me know you heard about this gift through Transformation Talk Radio. I look forward to connecting soon.
Calling all Intuit's healers and readers, you are invited to the Women of Wisdom Fall Festival. Healing our planet, sharing our gifts. Join us as we celebrate the bounty of our Mother Earth on October 1st at North Seattle Community College. We're looking for a variety of practitioners and experts in the art of energy healings, intuitive readings, and bodywork. If you are a reader, healer, or artisan, we invite you to share your gifts with the Women of Wisdom community. Go to womenofwisdom.org to apply.
Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This hit show will have you thinking outside the box and riding the wave of infinite potential. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. Visit thetruthisfunny.com.
Sky Siegel co-hosts one of today's most popular psychic shows, Angels and Answers with Artie Hoffman, as she communicates healing messages from the spirit world. These messages can be astounding, enlightening, and life-changing. Born with the God-given talent of inner guidance and the amazing ability to heal, Sky has healed thousands of people. Schedule a reading with Sky now. Call 908-500-1474 and visit skyofangels.com.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days, because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Welcome back to Truth Talk. I am your host, Deb Acker. Today we are talking about identifying and clearing your patterns. And right now I want to talk about some of the most common patterns I see in the clients and the females that I work with. And so one of the biggest ones that I see, and this is just common just in general, right, across the board, but one of the biggest ones that I see is worthiness. And when we don't feel worthy, we attract and allow all kinds of situations that hurt us and pull us away from our happiness. And so worthiness, really the most common way to really talk about that is around not being good enough, right? Not feeling worthy, not feeling good enough, right? And the things that we allow when we assume that we are not good enough. And as part of that too, I mean, some of the things that we allow because we're trying to maybe avoid being abandoned, we're trying to avoid hurt, right? But in the process, we end up creating the exact thing that we are trying to avoid. And if you join me on social media, if you join me as part of my newsletter, I will be doing a free call on clearing this pattern coming up in the next couple of weeks. So definitely want to get on my newsletter to hear about that call. But worthiness is kind of like that fundamental space, right? That we're all functioning from, right? On some level, most of us, on some way, are going around thinking we're not good enough, right? We're not worthy of certain things, and inherently are attracting people, situations, relationships, you name it, to show up for us around that exact pattern. Another really common one that I see, especially in female clients, is around people pleasing. And many times, to be liked, to avoid rejection or even deeper abandonment, we don't say no, or we don't speak our truth. And so basically, when we are people pleasing, some of us, and if for any of you guys who are familiar with the Enneagram, there is, I believe it's number 2. It's either number 2 or number 3, but I'm pretty sure it's number 2, is around people pleasing, right? So if you find yourself making decisions all around wanting to be liked, and you're scared to say no because you're like, oh, you're worried that somebody won't like you if you don't say, if you say no to them, you are probably either a wing of a 2, or you're probably functioning from a 2 on the Enneagram scale. So if you read about the Enneagram is a really awesome way for you to better understand who you are, better understand how you function. And I'm a 2, so I'm very familiar with people pleasing and what that pattern looks like, and how hard it can be to say no, and how destructive that can be when you're like, okay, like this isn't the right thing for me, but you want to say yes because you want to be agreeable, you want to be liked, you want to be thought of in a high way, right? And how that really functions and keeps us out of our truth so profoundly. And speaking of truth, another really big common pattern that I see is owning, speaking, and living your truth. And so many of us don't know how to do this, right? Because if you think about, when you're a kid, and if you get if, say for instance, your dad is modeling for you, we don't talk about things. We don't really touch on what our real truth is, right? And obviously he's not saying that in any way, but he's modeling it in some way, right? Where he's kind of just like, there's that energy of just tiptoeing around, right? Tiptoeing, managing emotions, only talking about, not really being real, only talking about surface level type things. You're going to take on that's a strong way to be loved. And then when you go to show up from a real space, you go to show up from your own truth, inherently you're blocked because here's, one of your main parents modeling for you. Yeah, if you want love, you better not go there, right? You better not be that real. And so every time you go to put forth a real persona, the real you, or if it's you go deeper than surface level, all of a sudden, it feels inauthentic, right? Because this inherited truth that you took on was anything but that, right? And so that's such a common pattern, and it's so understandable that when you have this modeling, so you can have there's several ways that gets modeled. The one way I described it is one way. Then you got this other way of like sort of around appearances, right? And performance. And so you could have you could be in a family where it's all about appearances, right? It's all about the way that you look. You got to look a certain way to be loved. You've got to be funny to be loved. And again, while that may be your truth, or you might like comedy, or you might, be into really, making sure you look a certain way, or making sure you appear a certain way. A lot of that ends up being kind of it's a persona that we put on, right? It's a persona that stops us from really being and living and owning our truth. And so, part of this is that identification and really undoing those pieces of really, okay, how do I begin to speak my truth? It's like, how do I begin to really stand in what's really true for me, stand in what I really know, and then speak that out to the world, even though I especially too, if you're a people pleaser, right? Because maybe you might fear, as part of that fear, being accepted, that you might not be accepted if you are your real self, if you are your true self, because maybe your true self doesn't want to be super social, or your true self doesn't want to have to put up these personas that you grew up with, right? And yet, you have your parents in your everyday life, or in your life, in your adult life, modeling this for you, and you don't want to be abandoned by them, right? You still want to be loved and supported by them. So that's like such a super, super common pattern. Another one that is so common is really around stepping into your power. And so many times it can be so common, it can be so easy that to really not be in our power, right? Sometimes not being in our power means that we don't have to own what we really desire, right? It means that we don't have to really stand in the truth of what really desire and really put that out into the world. But as you step into your power, as you own what's really, really true for you, you came here to be a powerful being, and to stand in your power, to stand in your truth and own all of those pieces. So that's such a really, really common, such a really big pattern. And definitely make sure you stay tuned, because we will be doing a big clearing around these patterns that I'm mentioning, which I absolutely love. But another pattern that I see, which is really, really common, and again, I would say it's probably more common in females than men, but I might be stereotyping. I tend to work with a lot of females, so I tend to see this a lot in females. But self-doubt and worry can be a really big piece that keeps us out of our truth, right? So, when you're wanting to be liked, right? When you're wanting to be accepted, so many times, you might, if somebody tells you, oh, this is what the right thing to do here, it's a lot easier to go along with what they're saying than to really stand in what's really true for you, to really own what's really true, or even to connect to what that is, right? So many times we're not even connected to what that is, let alone own it. And so really self-doubt and worry can really, really show up in a really, really profound way. And then you get even deeper into that, and you go into self-criticism, right? And judgment. And earlier on in the show, I mentioned around criticism equaling love. And a lot of us had, I mean, myself included, a lot of us had that model in our childhood, right? You know, like our families on some level was like, okay, this is how we love you. You know, like it's so funny. My grandma who passed away last year, she was so sweet, but every time I laugh, but every time I would go to her house, even as an adult, she would like say something, because I love to wear workout clothes and I love to just be like in gym clothes and have my hair pulled back. And she would say something like, "Did you comb your hair?" You know? And she would always have a comment on my appearance. Right. And so basically, you know, that is something that can be modeled for you. And so, you know, if you look at that, that might be something then, you know, you get criticized by your family, and then you take that criticism, which we all have, that kind of that inner mean child, that inner mean girl as it's commonly known, right? So we all have that, right? And so you might take that criticism into the way that you communicate and the way that you talk to yourself, right? And then think about how, you know, you talk to others. And if they didn't have that model, or even if they did, they might not, you know, it might be hard for them to really fully accept you or fully love you if the way that you're showing love is by criticizing and judging, right? And so another piece of that too is perfectionism, right? Because how many times does our need to be perfect stop us from moving forward? And so really looking at that, right? And recognizing that and undoing that, right? Because we don't have to be perfect to be loved, right? We don't have to be. We can just be step forth from that real place, right? So part of it's like, if you look at this, it's like all these patterns are intertwined, right, with living your truth, because, you know, you've got this perfectionism and this people pleasing and all of the walls that we've built up from actually being able to step into and be our true selves, right? Because as we've got all these layers of untruths that we've just put on, it's kind of like we've put on this 50-pound costume and, you know, then you're just like, literally you've got to peel off layer by layer by layer. And speaking of heaviness, another really common pattern is fear and anxiety, right? And so many of us function from this fear and anxiety. And anxiety was definitely extremely prevalent in my family when I was growing up. And it was, I mean, it's kind of was just a way of life, you know? And so you just really take that into, you know, your own way of life and your own way of being, and then you show up every day and if you think about it, if you feel into fear in your body, if you feel into that anxiety in your body, that feels so heavy. Like it's like that 50-pound costume that you're carrying around and you're like, whoa. And so, you know, really recognizing, and specifically around fear too, a couple of the biggest things that I see around fear are fear of failure and fear of rejection. And so maybe if in some way you got rejected a lot in your life when you were a kid, in some way you may be recreating that over and over. And one thing that many people aren't necessarily tuned into in that way is, okay, so I'm recreating this over and over, and because it's actually a way of being, right? It's in some way, it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel comfortable, even though you don't want it to happen. Obviously, you don't want to be rejected, but on some level, that is the only way that you know. Right? And it keeps you kind of playing small. So it kind of goes back to that, really us not being in our power. And so it's so important as we, you know, start to identify our patterns, start to really notice, okay, it's like, you know, what's comfortable about this? So many times why a pattern stays relevant. And one of the keys to really identifying your pattern is around, really asking, like, why is this in my field? And actually, how is this keeping me safe? How is this keeping me comfortable? Because, you know, it might not automatically come up, oh, well, fear of rejection is keeping me comfortable. But if it keeps you playing small, and that means you don't have to put yourself out there, or you can make excuses, which is another super common pattern. But if you can make excuses for why you're showing up in the way that you are and why you don't have to put yourself out there in a bigger way, on some level, it is keeping you safe. It is keeping you comfortable. And the last pattern I really want to touch on before we talk about really, won't go into deeper identifying, and we do start to really do some clearing around your patterns, is the idea of controlling and not trusting, right? And this was such a big one for me. I mean, I can tell you when I was growing up and as an adult, when I was in my 20s, I was very oriented around wanting to have control, not letting go. And really one of the biggest ways this showed up was in my relationships, right? And so on some level, I'd want to have control of how this person was showing up for me. I'd want to sort of know I was safe, right? I wanted to know that they were going to stick around. And that was from a deep-rooted pattern of abandonment. But as I released this, right, and as I moved into, oh my gosh, everything that's happening is for me, right? And as I moved into that energy of trust, it was so powerful. It changed everything, because all of a sudden then I was able to go into relationship, and I'm able to go into relationship now just relaxed, right? And feeling supported and feeling loved. And even when that person decides they're not going to show up for me, I haven't abandoned me, right? I haven't left me. I've let go. So I no longer have like the energy that it feels like it's like that death grip, right? Just holding on so tightly to try to keep yourself safe, to try to keep yourself grounded and safe. And so those are some of the common patterns that I see. And really, in terms of identifying those patterns and really starting to do that, it's really, really important to really check in around the things that are happening in your life and ask why this is happening. So many times this is just a simple question, and really as you open your awareness, you open your consciousness, it can really help you to start to see your patterns clearly and to shift your perspective. And so, for example, I use this example, but let's go a little deeper with it. You might notice you're hearing no a lot. So if this is the case, it's good to tune in and ask, why is this in my field right now? So just to repeat that one more time, why is this in my field right now? And it might be to show you that you are out of alignment, and it could be because you have a pattern of being rejected, likely from when you were a child. Right? And so we touched on this fear of rejection and being rejected, but as you start to notice this pattern, it's really important to connect, to start to clear that pattern. One of the most common things you can do is start to connect to the little child that lives within you that doesn't want to be rejected, is scared of being rejected, and even deeper, which is what I touched on before, somehow being rejected makes them feel comfortable, makes them feel safe because it's what they know. Right? And so you need to have a conversation with your little child and ask them what they are scared of, and allow any emotions that come up around this fear to surface so that they can release, right? It's like there's so much energy that these patterns hold from childhood, because in the moment when these patterns were happening when we were kids, we didn't get the chance to have that voice. We didn't get the chance to say to our parents, no, I'm not taking this on. We didn't get the chance to vocalize what our true truth was in that moment. And so many times something that we're doing subconsciously is we're recreating these patterns over and over and over again to have that voice. And so one key to really undoing those patterns is to really give your little child that voice. And again, this is the work that I do with my clients. And so if you are feeling called to work further on your patterns, whether it's one-on-one, I am literally the pattern girl, right? I will help you see all aspects of your life so clearly. But if you're feeling called to do one-on-one coaching, if you're feeling called to apply to be part of my Live Your Truth program, which literally is going to change everything, right? I created this program. It's really a download from my guides and my angels and my own intuition, and from spending like 1 year's salary is what equates to all my investments and my personal growth. So this program is the culmination of all of those pieces, and it will change your life. So if you feel called, I definitely encourage you to apply. I would love to serve and support you. And again, you can apply on my website at www.deboraacker.com. That's DEBRAAcker.com/live-your-truth-program. So www.deboraacker.com/live-your-truth-program. And so with that, I want to go ahead and finish today's segment like we do all of our segments with a clearing. And so I mentioned, connecting to your inner child. That's one way to clear your patterns. Clearing, which is a lot of the work that I do, and I tune in intuitively to what's really going on so we can really dive deep, right? So many coaches that you might work with, they will get to the pattern, but they sort of circle around it. And one of the things that I've noticed with my clients is I'm able to dive in straight into what that energy is. And I have been told by my clients that's the thing that makes me sort of unique and different from a lot of the coaches that they've worked with, is that ability to see and dive into that energy so profoundly. So it can clear so quickly if you can really get to the heart of the energy. And so many times, if you're working with another coach, you might find that you end up circling around it. And a lot of the work that I do with my clients is to literally tackle and undo that pattern. I mean, in as little as one session. And this can be patterns you've held in multiple lifetimes. This can be patterns you've had in this lifetime and you've been carrying around your entire lifetime. And we can literally undo it and get to either undo the pattern or at least get to the first layer of that pattern in just one session. So I definitely encourage you to contact me if this calls to you. And so with that, I want to go ahead and do a clearing around these patterns. And so for those of you guys who are new to clearing, I'm going to go ahead and connect you to the light. And don't worry, I'll walk you through this step by step, but I'll basically connect you to the light, and we're going to bring light through your entire body. And then I'll have you expand that light out 5 feet, 10 feet, all the way out to the entire universe. And I will, again, connect you to that step by step. And then I might say something that, everywhere you don't think that you're enough, everywhere you don't feel like you're worth it, and you want to see that coming out of your body, and you want to breathe in worth, you want to breathe in truth. I'll give you some options, some positive alternatives to breathe in. If something else comes up, definitely feel free to breathe that in, and you can also always breathe in light. And so with that, go ahead and close your eyes. And if you are operating heavy machinery, if you are driving, do not close your eyes. But for everybody else, go ahead and close your eyes. And you're just going to place your feet nice and flat on the floor. And just start off by taking a nice deep breath and just breathing in through your nose and just filling your belly and the sides of the body, the chest and the legs with air. And then just exhaling out nice and slow. And again, just taking a nice deep breath, just breathing in through your nose and just filling your belly and the sides of the body, the chest and the legs with air, and just exhaling out nice and slow. And just connecting to the light that's 300 feet above your head. And we naturally do this when we pray. So see, sense, or feel that light. And you're just going to allow this liquid light to come down in through your forehead, down past your eyes so that you can really see your truth and see the truth and see your patterns. And bring that liquid light down past your nose, past your ears, so you can hear your truth and hear whatever patterns want to come forth, whatever patterns want to be identified right now. And bringing that liquid light down into your mouth and into your throat so you can really speak your truth and speak out the truth over speaking from your patterns. And bringing that liquid light down into your throat and down across your shoulders and down into your heart so you can really feel your truth. And bring that liquid light down into your stomach and into your hips so you can really stand, ground in, and create your truth and create the true you. And bring that liquid light down into your legs and out through your feet so you can really move towards your truth and move towards the truth of who you are, the truth of who you came here to be. And just connecting into the center of the earth that feels like mother's love. It's all ooey and gooey and warm and nurturing. And just allowing this liquid light to come back up through your feet, up through your legs, up through your torso, and up through your face. And one more time, just liquid light coming down into your face, across your shoulders, down your torso, down your hips, down your legs, and out through your feet. And back up through your feet, up through your legs, up through your torso, and up through your face. And just expanding that light from above and below. Go ahead and expand that light into the room that you're in. And just open, expanding, and breathing out into the entire building. And just open, expanding, and breathing out into the entire city. Again, open, expanding, and breathing. Just seeing that light cover the entire state or country that you're in, wherever you are located. Just open, expanding, and breathing, and open, expanding, and breathing, and opening that light out to the entire world. So just super, super, super big, just open, expanding, and breathing, and expanding that light out past the entire universe, past all the planets. And again, everywhere where you don't think that you're enough, everywhere you feel like you're not good enough, everywhere you feel like you're not worth it, just exhaling that out of your body and just breathing in worth, breathing in value, breathing in truth, breathing in light, breathing in abundance, and breathing in worth, breathing in value, breathing in truth, breathing in light, breathing in abundance, and breathing in truth, breathing in light, breathing in value, breathing in abundance. And everywhere you're scared to be you, everywhere you're scared to speak and own your truth and move towards what's really true for you, just exhaling that pattern out of your body and breathing in you, breathing in your truth, breathing in enough, breathing in you, breathing in your truth, breathing in enough, breathing in you, breathing in your truth, breathing in enough, and everywhere you're not in your power. So everywhere in some way you're not owning your power, not in your power, exhaling that out of your body and breathing in your power, breathing in your truth, breathing in your power, breathing in your truth. And everywhere you're feeling critical, everywhere you're feeling judgmental of yourself, of others, exhaling that out and breathing in love, breathing in self-love, and breathing in truth and light. Breathing in love, breathing in self-love, breathing in truth, and breathing in light. And breathing in love, breathing in self-love, breathing in truth, and breathing in light. And everywhere you feel fear, right? So everywhere you feel fear, everywhere you feel anxiety, just exhaling out that fear, exhaling out any sort of fear of failure, exhaling out any sort of fear of rejection, and just breathing in truth, breathing in openness, breathing in expansiveness, and breathing in light, and breathing in truth, breathing in openness, breathing in expansiveness, and breathing in light, and just filling yourself up with light, filling yourself up with more light, and filling yourself up with more light, and just feeling your feet nice and flat in the room, and feeling your body back in the room. And with that, I want to thank you all for tuning into Truth Talk. I always love hearing from my audience. If you have a comment on the show or like to introduce yourself, you can send me a note on the contact page of my website at deboraacker.com. And there you can also sign up for my complimentary pattern identifying discovery session, as well as my free Living in Your Truth guide. And next week on Truth Talk, we'll have Fern Langham talking about attuned beauty and supporting your recovery from autoimmune and thyroid conditions. So in the meantime, I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to talking with you next time.
Thank you for listening to Truth Talk Radio with your host, Deb Acker. Tune into Truth Talk Radio every Wednesday at 3 Pacific Time on TransformationTalkRadio.com and experience the truth of who you are and who you came here to be. Each week, Deb interviews an inspiring guest and illuminates the truth to a wide range of topics, including love, life, purpose, career, consciousness, and abundance. Welcome to the world of infinite possibilities. For more information about Deb, including how to contact or work with her, visit TruthTalkRadioshow.com. Look forward to seeing you next week for more Truth Talk Radio.